Hi there, welcome to another edition of Hammersim Battle Reports. My name is Sean. Today I'm bringing to you something a little bit different. So over the weekend we had a mini tournament of sorts. We set up 3 tables at a friend's house. Each one of us made 1,000 point armies. There were 7 of us all together. We're all friends, so it was a friendly tournament. And we randomized which players would face off against each other. Between all the food, the alcohol, and all the conversations we were having between each round, we managed to squeeze in 3 games per person that day. I will give you the full battle report of my battle on table 2 against Dark Elves, but I will also summarize the 2 battles that happened on the other 2 tables at the end of the video. And here's how terrain was set up on table 2. As you can see, we've got a couple of hills, a mist-wreathed marsh, we have a standard fence, as well as a standard house. And this is how we deployed. As you can see, my opponent went for a very heavy shooting army. He started off by dropping 3 repeating bolt throwers. He dropped then 30 plus dark shards in a horde formation. And then he dropped his general inside of that, who was a level 4 sorceress. And then in his scouting phase, he dropped a unit of, I think, 6 or 7 shades just behind my Khan Wraiths. Now, as for my army, I went for a fairly heavy infantry based tactic. I wanted to have as many wounds in my army as possible, while the Grave Guards are still able to kill just about anything my opponents can throw at me. This is because I knew a lot of my friends were going to be taking shooting armies. I could count on the fact that there was going to be at least 1 Dwarven army in this tournament, at least 1 Dark Elf, 1 High Elf, and 1 Wood Elf. So out of 7 armies, one of them including me, there was already going to be 4 guaranteed shooting armies. So I thought if I'd make my army to combat this tactic, then I should have a high chance of winning. I deployed 2 Khan Wraith heroes on the left flank. The idea behind that is to threaten any war machines on that flank, as well as possibly dealing with the shades that he's dropped. The 2 direwolf units will be threatening the remaining bolt thrower, and have a unit of 26 zombies, a unit of 25 zombies, and a unit of 18 Graveguard. My 2 characters are a level 3 Master Necromancer, which is inside the larger of the zombie units right now, as well as a White King BSB that is inside the Graveguard. My general is rocking a 4+ ward save, and the Graveguard unit is holding a Banner of the Barrels, which gives them a +1 hit in close combat. I ended up winning the roll for first turn, so I elected to move all of my units up as quickly as possible, with the exception of 1 Khan Wraith unit who is turning around to face the shades. Now I figure his shades would not have the movement range to get out of my charge distance for my Khan Wraiths. I figured that 1 Khan Wraith should be enough to sort through that shade unit because they're not running magical weapons, as well as the fact that they're not going to have rank bonuses, so generally I should be able to come out on top in this combat. Worst case scenario, I don't do any wounds, so it's a good trade-off, I think. In case you're wondering why I didn't charge my direwolf straight in, I think there's actual rule preventing a vanguard unit from being able to declare a charge in the first turn of the game. During Dark Elf turn 1, my opponent doesn't move very much as expected. He shifts his scout slightly forward to get in range of the zombies, and then he proceeds to shoot with everything he's got. It actually took all of his shooting just to bring down the 2 direwolf units, which is great because any turn where my infantry aren't really getting shot at by the repeating bolt throwers is a good turn for me. In my turn 2, I declare a charge against his Reaper bolt throwers with 1 Khan Wraith, and then a charge with the 2nd Khan Wraith against his scout unit. Now the charge against the bolt thrower is a bit of a long range charge. I think I needed to roll maybe 10 or 11 to get in range, but that wasn't the point of this charge. That was just to force a terror check. Luckily for me, my opponent fails his leadership 8 terror check, but we do play the rule wrong here. We thought that war machines reacts the same to a failed panic test as infantry, so we actually rolled the flee for the war machine, and he ended up fleeing off the board. However, we found out later that this shouldn't have been the case, but I don't think it would have affected the outcome of this game. At the bottom there, his scout unit ends up failing his leadership as well, so they legitimately flee off the board. This is a very good turn for me so far. During my remaining movement phase, I end up lining the zombie unit number 1 slightly further ahead. I figure I should still be able to make the charge next turn with my Grave Guard, and I wanted to block the line of sight against this left repeating bolt thrower against him, as well as possibly drawing fire from his Dark Shards unit. And that's pretty much what happened in the following Dark Elf turn. He had to shoot the zombie unit number 1 with a repeating bolt thrower on the left. His Dark Shards were also more worried about that zombie unit than the Grave Guard, which I thought was a mistake, so he aimed all of his shots at the zombie unit as well. His other repeating bolt thrower do shoot at the Grave Guard, however he only manages to do 1 wound. And by my turn 3, I declare my charges with the Grave Guard, make it easily against his Dark Shards. He does do the stand and shoot and kills maybe 3 or 4 models, but I end up getting into combat with 12 Grave Guard as well as my BSB, so I should have this game sewn up. I also declare a charge with my other Khan Wraith against his leftmost repeating bolt thrower. However, I fail to charge, and he does pass this leadership for the terror test. One thing I've been forgetting to mention is the magic phases during this game, and that's pretty much because we've been blanketing each other's magics pretty well. His level 4 sorcerer was quite good at stopping all of my invocations with my level 3, and I pretty much dispelled any other damaging spells that he put on my units. However, he does repeatedly get Word of Pain off on my Graveguard unit, but I don't really mind because with my banner and my strength I should still be able to do plenty of wounds to him. And in this magic phase I do manage to get a Van Hels off on my Graveguard, so they've got rerolls to hit. Hand-to-hand combat goes very badly for my opponent there, even though he had always strike first and rerolls to hits. Just Elves with strength 3 in general against a unit that's toughness 4 with 5+ armor save. He doesn't do a lot of wounds. He might have did 3 or 4. This is not going to be anywhere near enough because my Graveguard is rocking the Banner of Barrels, so they're 3s to hit. I've got the rerolls to hits from the spell. I've got my BSB in there with 3 attacks as well. So there was just no way he could win that combat mathematically. So I do a huge amount of wounds to him. I think he had to roll maybe 3 or 4 to pass his leadership. He fails. He panics and flees, and then I end up chasing him down. We decided to stop the game there because there was no point playing 1 or 2 turns just to kill his repeating bolt throwers. He conceded the match. It also gives us a chance to watch some of the other games that was happening around us, so we didn't mind stopping the match early. And this is the victory points for the match. As you can see, quite about one-sided against the Dark Elves there. He only scored the 2 Direwolf units, whereas I scored everything except for the 2 repeating bolt throwers on the flanks. Now for some thoughts after the game. I think my opponent's list probably wasn't best suited against the list that I chose. As I said, I did pick one with as many wounds as possible because I knew I was going to be facing shooting armies, and I personally probably would have dropped the Shades unit that he had that's scouting for a unit of more solid infantry to protect his shooting a little bit better. But being that this is a tournament and he's facing multiple opponents, I think he just did his best to come up with a concept and try and win against all opponents rather than picking a list that's going to go well against undead. One other big contributing factor for this victory was my opponent's failure to use the hill in that corner. Now this was actually a little bit of a funny incident. We had run out of terrain for the tournament because we ended up rolling a lot of hills on the other tables, and this table was set up last, so we still rolled 2 hills for this table, and we had to use makeshift looking cardboard boxes for the hills. So my opponent during his deployment phase just completely forgot that that was a hill in the corner, but by the time we finished deploying he realized that, but it was a little bit too late. So it just pretty much came down to not paying attention, and we were having a lot of conversations with people as well, and that's a lesson to be learned when you're having a game. Maybe focus on your deployment and your turns, then have your conversation in between. If my opponent did take full advantage of the hill, I probably would have seen a deployment similar to this. I still think I would have had a fairly good chance at beating the army, because I think my Khan Wraiths would still be able to get his war machines, and if my Graveguard don't get there, I reckon 2 units of zombies against his Dark Shards probably would have worn him down by the end. However, it would have been a much tougher battle. And last but not least, I felt that my opponent probably could have shot at my Graveguard unit a little bit more than he did. I mean, it was my plan to make my zombie unit the focus of his shooting by pushing them up forward, so he was more worried about the zombies getting the charge, but he allowed my Graveguard to get there with 12 or 13 models if you count the BSB, so I still had rank bonus, I was still combat effective. So if it was me personally, I would have done as much shooting as I can against the Graveguard as opposed to shooting at the zombies. On table 1, the Warriors Chaos were absolutely smashing the High Elves until I think about turn 4, where just about every possible dice roll went against him, and the High Elves ended up eking out a victory there. Quite a decent, entertaining match on that side. I watched the remaining 2 or 3 turns, and on the table 3, which was outside my friend's house in the garage, the Dwarves had a very solid victory against the Wood Elves. The Dwarven artillery just rained down. The Wood Elf player had just terrible luck with dice rolling there. Coupled that with he was still learning 8th edition rules, and I think he was fairly new to Wood Elves as well. Yeah, so he started off on the back foot there. So out of the first round, the victors were High Elves, Vampire Counts, and Dwarves. I will endeavor to bring you round 2 and round 3 over the next few days. If you have enjoyed this video, please click like, or better yet, subscribe, so I know that there are people appreciating the video. And for now, I'm Sean from Hammersim. Thank you for watching.